What if your next Italian lesson took place in a magical castle with the wicked queen, a talking mirror, and 7 tiny roommates? Well, today we're stepping into the world of Biancaneve e I Sette Nani, Snow White and the 7 dwarves, and turn this fairy tale into a powerful grammar and vocabulary lesson. In today's lesson, you'll learn things like diminutives, including casetta, vecchina, and lettini, storytelling tenses, including the imperfetto and passato remoto. You'll also learn idioms like
essere colto di sorpresa
and
una mela marcia.
And don't worry about taking notes, I've done all the hard work for you. To help you to practice everything you're about to learn here today, make sure you download your free PDF cheat sheet with this lesson. It includes the story transcript and all the grammar notes and vocabulary you're about to learn here today. To download it, just click on the link in the description below this video. Pronti? Iniziamo! Let's get started. Ciao, my name is Michelle. That's Michelle with just one L because I'm named after my nonno, Michele. And even though my dad is Italian, I didn't grow up speaking the language. I learned it as an adult. And now I teach thousands of learners just like you around the world speak Italian with confidence using my unique 80-20 method. For more details about my online self-paced courses, just visit the link in the description below this video, or you can visit intrepiditalian.com. Now, to get the most out of this story today, it's helpful to familiarize yourself with a few key Italian words and expressions that will appear throughout the chapters. Take a look at this first one.
C'era una volta.
This means once upon a time, and it's the classic opening line for fairy tales in Italian, instantly transporting us to a magical faraway world. The next term to learn is
Biancaneve.
Snow White. This is the name of our protagonist, which Italians sometimes use as a nickname for a girl who's a bit naive, and it combines the adjective bianca, white, and the noun neve, snow. The next term to look out for is
Regina.
Queen. In fairy tales, she rules the castle, but in everyday Italian, regina can also describe a woman who stands out for a certain quality, like
La regina indiscussa della tavola.
the undisputed star of the table, aka the best dish. Or it can be part of expressions like
Trattare come una regina.
to treat like a queen, and
Darsi arie da regina.
to act like royalty. The next term to look out for is
Specchio.
mirror. Italians often use this word in poetic ways, such as
Il mare è uno specchio.
the sea is calm like a mirror, or
Gli occhi sono lo specchio dell'anima.
the eyes are the mirror to the soul. You may also hear that something is
Pulito come uno specchio.
spotlessly clean. Another term to look out for is
Brama.
longing or yearning. In the story, the queen's brame, yearnings, fuel her obsession with being the fairest of them all. It's a rather formal word, often replaced in everyday speech with the term
Desiderio.
meaning desire. The next term to keep an eye out for is
Cacciatore.
hunter. Besides its literal meaning, this word is often used metaphorically to describe someone who hunts for something like
Cacciatore di dote.
a fortune hunter,
Cacciatore di teste.
a headhunter, or
L'uomo è cacciatore.
an Italian saying that suggests men are naturally driven to seduce. The next term to keep an eye out for is
Bosco.
meaning woods or forest. A key setting in many stories, bosco also shows up in fun idioms like
Uccel di bosco.
someone who hides or is difficult to catch, and
Portare legna al bosco.
to do something unnecessary like bringing wood to a forest. Then we have a really important term which is
Nano.
this means dwarf. In daily life, you may hear Italians use it as a term of endearment for small children, similar to saying little one in English. Now, to learn more about which Italian terms of endearment you can use between friends, family, and your romantic partner, make sure you watch my video lesson right here. The next term to keep an eye out for is
mela,
apple. This word appears in Italian idioms such as
una mela marcia,
a bad apple, basically someone who brings problems, and classic verbs like
una mela al giorno toglie il medico di torno.
an apple a day keeps the doctor away, or
La mela non cade mai lontano dall'albero.
the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, meaning that children often reflect their parents' behavioral traits. Then we have the term
Principe,
prince. In fairy tales, he's the charming rescuer, but in everyday Italian, this word also appears in expressions like
il principe del foro,
a star lawyer, or it is used as an adjective meaning main or most important, as in
l'evento principe del festival sarà il concerto di Bocelli.
the main event of the festival will be Bocelli's concert. So now that you have a few key terms under your belt, let's jump into the story, starting with chapter 1. Take a look.
Capitolo 1. La nascita di Biancaneve. C'era una volta una regina che desiderava avere una figlia con la pelle bianca come la neve, le labbra rosse come il sangue e i capelli neri come l'ebano. Un giorno il suo desiderio si avverò e nacque una bellissima bambina che chiamò Biancaneve. Purtroppo, poco dopo la nascita di Biancaneve, la regina morì. Il re si risposò con una donna bella, ma vanitosa e crudele. La nuova regina possedeva uno specchio magico al quale chiedeva ogni giorno: «Specchio, specchio delle mie brame, chi è la più bella del reame?» Lo specchio rispondeva sempre:
«Sei tu, mia regina, la più bella del reame».
Ma quando Biancaneve crebbe, diventando sempre più bella, un giorno lo specchio disse:
«Regina, sei bella, ma Biancaneve è più bella di te».
Accecata dalla gelosia, la regina ordinò a un cacciatore di portare Biancaneve nel bosco e di ucciderla. Come prova, il cacciatore avrebbe dovuto portare indietro il cuore della fanciulla.
In this opening chapter, we learn about the queen's wish for a daughter with
La pelle bianca come la neve,
skin as white as snow,
le labbra rosse come il sangue,
lips as red as blood, and
i capelli neri come l'ebano.
hair as black as ebony. These phrases use simple comparisons introduced by come, meaning like or as, which is a common literary device called
Similitudine.
simile. Grammatically, this chapter shows the interplay between two Italian past tenses, the imperfetto and the passato remoto. The imperfetto is used for background information like
Una regina che desiderava avere una figlia.
a queen who wished to have a daughter, and habitual past actions such as
Lo specchio rispondeva sempre.
the mirror always answered. In contrast, key plot events are expressed in the passato remoto. For example,
Nacque una bellissima bambina.
a beautiful baby was born, and
La regina ordinò.
the queen ordered. We also see an example of the relative pronoun che, meaning who, that, or which, in
Una bellissima bambina che chiamò Biancaneve.
a beautiful baby whom she named Snow White. This is an essential connector to link clauses smoothly in Italian. Now, a central moment in this chapter is the Queen's famous line to her mirror, where she says,
Specchio, specchio delle mie brame, chi è la più bella del reame?
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all? This phrase contains the word reame, kingdom, a formal and somewhat archaic term. In everyday Italian, you'd more commonly hear regno, kingdom. The mirror replies with,
Sei tu la più bella del reame.
You're the most beautiful in the kingdom. This line features an example of the superlative in Italian, which is formed using the definite article plus più or meno, meaning most or least, plus an adjective. A few lines later, we encounter the comparative form with
Biancaneve è più bella di te.
Snow White is more beautiful than you, built with più, meno, meaning more or less, plus the adjective, plus the preposition di, meaning than. The Queen's reaction is intense. She's
Accecata dalla gelosia.
blinded by jealousy. The word
Accecata.
comes from
Accecare.
to blind and is frequently used figuratively to describe overwhelming emotions, as in this case. For example, you might say,
Accecato dalla rabbia.
blinded by anger, or
Accecato dall'amore.
blinded by love. Finally, the chapter closes with a disturbing order. The Queen instructs the huntsman to bring Snow White to the woods and kill her. That la is a direct object pronoun, standing in for Biancaneve and avoiding repetition. Also, the word fanciulla at the very end is a refined and poetic term for a young girl. Now, to learn more about how and when to use all pronouns in Italian, make sure to watch my video lesson right here. Are you enjoying this lesson? Don't let the learning stop here. Make sure you download your free PDF cheat sheet. It includes the story transcript, grammar notes, and vocabulary. Just click on the link in the description below this video. Now moving on to chapter 2. Take a look.
Capitolo 2. La fuga di Biancaneve. Il cacciatore condusse Biancaneve nel bosco, ma quando alzò il coltello non ebbe il coraggio di farle del male. Scappa, Biancaneve, le disse. Nasconditi e non tornare mai al castello. Biancaneve, spaventata e sola, vagò nel fitto bosco finché trovò una piccola casetta. La porta era aperta e dentro c'erano 7 lettini, 7 piatti e 7 sedie. Stanca e affamata, Biancaneve mangiò un po' di cibo che trovò e si addormentò su uno dei letti.
In this chapter, the huntsman leads Snow White into the forest, but when the moment comes,
Non ebbe il coraggio di farle del male.
he didn't have the courage to harm her. The phrase,
Avere il coraggio di.
to have the courage to, is a common construction used to introduce difficult actions, and it's followed by the infinitive verb, in this case,
Fare del male.
to do harm. The verb fare, to do or to make, is also worth noting, as it's frequently used in everyday speech as a substitute for more specific verbs. For instance, Italians often say
Fare un danno.
to do damage instead of
Danneggiare.
to damage, or
Fare da mangiare.
literally to make something to eat instead of
Cucinare.
to cook. The dialogue introduces the imperative form, which is used to give direct commands or advice. It's formed with the second person singular or plural of the present tense, as we see in
Scappa, Biancaneve.
Run, Snow White, and
Nasconditi.
hide. The verb nasconditi is especially interesting because it's a reflexive verb in the imperative form. This type of verb typically attaches the reflexive pronoun directly to the end of the verb. In this case, it's ti, yourself. This is at the end of nascondi, hide. We also see an example of a negative imperative, which is
Non tornare mai.
don't ever return, which is formed by placing non, not, before the verb in the infinitive form. As Snow White wanders into the woods, we come across a series of diminutives, those Italian words created by adding suffixes like ino, etto, or uccio to their root, as in
Casetta.
little house and
Lettini.
little beds. The use of the passato remoto to mark key actions in the story continues in this chapter too, with
Condusse Biancaneve nel bosco.
he led Snow White into the forest.
Alzò il coltello.
He raised the knife. And
Vagò nel fitto bosco.
she wandered through the dense forest. Are you enjoying this lesson so far? Do you want more stories? Now this video is part of my Italian fairy tale series, including Pinocchio, Biancaneve, Riccioli d'Oro and Cappuccetto Rosso. To watch them all, you can click on this playlist right here. Now let's go on to chapter 3. Take a look.
Capitolo 3. I Sette Nani. Al tramonto, i padroni di casa, 7 nani che lavoravano in una miniera, tornarono e trovarono la ragazza addormentata. «Chi è questa fanciulla?» chiesero sorpresi. Quando Biancaneve si svegliò, raccontò la sua storia. I nani, impietositi, le offrirono rifugio.
Puoi restare con noi, ma stai attenta alla regina cattiva,
le dissero. Ogni giorno i nani andavano a lavorare e raccomandavano a Biancaneve di non aprire la porta a nessuno.
This chapter begins with a tranquil setting,
Al tramonto,
at sunset, which is one of the many expressions used to indicate the time of day in Italian. The dwarves
i nani,
now make their entrance into the tale, finally. Now once Biancaneve awakens and tells her story, they are
impietositi,
moved to pity. This word comes from the verb
impietosire,
which means to move someone to pity or compassion. From the same root comes the adjective
pietoso,
which not only means compassionate or pitiful, it also appears in fun idiomatic expressions such as
stendere un velo pietoso,
literally, to lay a merciful veil over something. This is used when someone prefers not to comment on something embarrassing or unpleasant. Touched by her story, the dwarves
le offrirono rifugio.
they offered her shelter. This is a good example of the indirect object pronoun with le, standing for to her. Another example can be found a couple of lines later with
Le dissero,
they told her. The dwarves also warn her,
puoi restare con noi, ma stai attenta alla regina cattiva.
you can stay with us, but be careful of the wicked queen. The construction puoi restare is an example of how modal verbs like potere combine with infinitives to express almost anything. Before leaving for work each day, the dwarves
Raccomandavano a Biancaneve di non aprire la porta a nessuno.
they advised Snow White not to open the door to anyone. The verb
Raccomandare,
to recommend or to advise is worth highlighting. It often appears in the reflexive form,
mi raccomando,
a very Italian expression used to emphasize a request or give heartfelt advice, conveying both care and urgency. Interestingly, the past participle of raccomandare is raccomandato, and it literally means recommended. but it can also refer, with a hint of criticism, to someone who has obtained a job or privilege through personal connections or favoritism rather than merit. Alright, let's move on to chapter 4. Take a look.
Capitolo 4. La regina scopre la verità. Nel frattempo, la regina chiese di nuovo allo specchio magico: «Specchio, specchio delle mie brame, chi è la più bella del reame?» Lo specchio rispose:
Regina, sei bella, ma Biancaneve, nascosta nel bosco dai 7 nani, è più bella di te.
Furiosa, la regina decise di disfarsi di Biancaneve con l'inganno. Si travestì da vecchia venditrice ambulante e preparò un pettine avvelenato.
This chapter opens with a familiar ritual. Once again, the queen consults her specchio magico, an enchanted mirror, which reveals that Biancaneve is hidden in the forest and confirms that
È più bella di te.
she's more beautiful than you. Another example of the comparative form that we saw earlier. The transition between chapters is marked by the expression
Nel frattempo.
in the meantime, a common Italian expression used to indicate simultaneous or intervening events. The word frattempo itself is composed of fra, meaning between, and tempo, time, which perfectly captures the idea of what occurs in the time between two main actions. Enraged by the mirror's response, the queen decides to eliminate her rival
Con l'inganno.
through deception. The word inganno, deceit or trickery, features in many common expressions such as
Ricorrere a un inganno.
to resort to trickery,
Usare l'inganno.
to use deceit,
Convincere con l'inganno.
to persuade by deception, and
Carpire con l'inganno.
to obtain something by deceit. Specifically, the queen wants to
Disfarsi di Biancaneve.
get rid of Snow White. Disfarsi is the reflexive form of disfare, to undo or dismantle, which is commonly used in practical contexts like
Disfare la valigia.
to unpack the suitcase. However, when used reflexively with the preposition di,
Disfarsi di.
it takes on a much darker tone, suggesting a deliberate attempt to eliminate someone or something perceived as a burden or threat. Now, to learn more about how and when to use reflexive verbs in Italian, make sure you watch my video lesson right here. Now, to carry out her plan, the queen
Si travestì da vecchia venditrice ambulante.
disguised herself as an old street vendor. The phrase
Venditrice ambulante.
is the feminine form of
Venditore ambulante.
hawker or peddler. In everyday Italian, this is often shortened to simply
Ambulante.
Italians sometimes use the term.
Vu compra?
This is an imitation of the phrase
Vuoi comprare?
do you want to buy? Historically used to mock the Italian spoken by African immigrants working as street vendors. This expression is considered racist and so it should not be used, but it is useful to keep it in mind as you may still hear it in insensitive contexts. The Queen's deadly trap is
Un pettine avvelenato.
a poisoned comb. The adjective avvelenato, poisoned, is often used figuratively in Italian, as in the expression
Avere il dente avvelenato.
literally to have a poisoned tooth, meaning to hold a grudge. Are you enjoying this lesson? Don't let the learning stop here. Make sure you download your free PDF cheat sheet, which you'll find a link to in the description below this video. Moving on to chapter 5. Take a look.
Capitolo 5. Il primo inganno. La regina bussò alla porta della casetta dei nani e disse:
Buongiorno, bella fanciulla. Vuoi comprare un bel pettine?
Biancaneve, dimenticando i consigli dei nani, aprì la porta e accettò il pettine. Appena la regina le infilò il pettine tra i capelli, Biancaneve cadde a terra svenuta. Quando i nani tornarono, trovarono Biancaneve immobile e capirono subito che era opera della regina. Tolsero il pettine avvelenato e Biancaneve si riprese.
The wicked queen arrives at the dwarves' house and attempts to deceive Snow White. The word
Casetta,
appears again here, a diminutive of casa, house, which adds a sense of warmth and smallness. The queen offers
un bel pettine,
a nice comb, and this phrase gives us a good chance to explore the adjective bello, beautiful or nice. When used before a masculine noun starting with a consonant, it changes to bel, as in bel pettine. Likewise, it becomes bei before masculine plural nouns. For example,
bei vestiti,
nice clothes. This pattern is similar to the adjective buono for good, which also changes form depending on the noun that follows. For example,
un buon libro,
a good book,
una buona anima,
a good soul. Now, to learn the difference between bello, buono, bene, and bravo, and how and when to use them, you can watch my video lesson right here. Now, unfortunately, Snow White ignores the dwarves' warning and
aprì la porta,
here we see the everyday expression
aprire la porta,
to open the door, which pairs with
bussare alla porta,
to knock on the door, used earlier in
bussò alla porta.
she knocked on the door. Another interesting verb appears in the phrase
Appena la regina le infilò il pettine tra i capelli.
as soon as the queen inserted the comb into her hair, where infilare means to insert or to slip in, and is derived from filo, meaning thread, evoking the image of threading something delicately or sneakily. It can also be used reflexively, such as
Infilarsi nel letto,
to slip into bed, or
infilarsi sotto la doccia,
to hop into the shower, both informal and common expressions that you'll hear in everyday Italian. When the dwarves return to find Snow White unconscious, they immediately understand that
era opera della regina.
it was the work of the queen. The expression
Essere opera di,
to be the work of is very useful in context where you want to attribute responsibility for an action, whether good or evil. The use of the passato remoto continues here as well to narrate key events with decisive pacing. For example,
bussò,
knocked,
accettò,
accepted,
cadde,
fell,
si riprese.
recovered. Let's move on to chapter 6. Take a look.
Capitolo 6. Il secondo inganno. La regina, saputo che Biancaneve era ancora viva, preparò un nastro avvelenato per il busto e tornò a bussare alla porta travestita.
Lascia che ti aiuti a stringere il busto, cara.
Disse con voce gentile. Biancaneve accettò e la regina le strinse il busto con il nastro fino a farle perdere i sensi. Ancora una volta i nani riuscirono a salvarla appena in tempo.
In this chapter, the queen makes a second attempt to eliminate Snow White. Having learned that the girls survived the poisoned comb, she prepares a new trap, this time using
Un nastro avvelenato.
a poisoned ribbon, and
Tornò a bussare alla porta travestita.
returned to knock at the door in disguise. The word
Travestita.
comes from the reflexive verb travestirsi, to dress up. While in fairy tales it typically implies a disguise for deception, this same word also appears in other contexts. For example,
travestito.
can refer to both someone in a costume or a transvestite. The Queen speaks sweetly, saying,
Lascia che ti aiuti a stringere il busto, cara.
"Let me help you tighten your corset, dear." This line features two important elements. First, the expression
Lascia che.
let me, where lascia is the imperative form of lasciare, to let or to allow, and is typically followed by the conjunction che and the subjunctive mood, as in,
Lascia che ti spieghi.
let me explain to you. This construction is very common in persuasive or polite situations. Also notice the word cara, meaning dear or darling, an Italian term of endearment that's commonly used between friends, romantic partners, or deceitfully to lower someone's guard, as in this case. The Queen's plan nearly succeeds.
La regina le strinse il busto con il nastro, fino a farle perdere i sensi.
The Queen tightened the corset with the ribbon until she fainted. The word busto here refers to the upper part of the body, the bust, but it's worth noting its broader range of meanings. In art, it can refer to a bust sculpture or a
Ritratto a mezzo busto.
half-length portrait. In medical contexts, it can also mean a brace worn for posture. The phrase
Perdere i sensi.
to faint, on the other hand, is built from the verb perdere, to lose, and the noun sensi, which is the plural form of senso, sense. This word is incredibly versatile in Italian. It can mean sense, as in
I cinque sensi.
the five senses, but also feeling, such as
Un senso di angoscia.
a feeling of anxiety. We can also use it to talk about direction, as in
Senso unico.
one way, or meaning, as in
Un doppio senso.
a double meaning, often with a humorous twist. Additionally, it appears in common expressions like,
In che senso?
what do you mean?
Avere senso.
To make sense,
Fare senso.
to be disgusting, and in
In senso lato.
broadly speaking. Now let's move on to chapter 7. Take a look.
Capitolo 7. La mela avvelenata. Infuriata, la regina decise di usare un trucco definitivo. Una mela avvelenata. La mela era rossa e lucida, ma avvelenata solo da un lato. Travestita da vecchina, la regina tornò alla casetta e offrì la mela a Biancaneve.
Assaggia questa mela, dolcezza. È la più buona che tu abbia mai mangiato.
Biancaneve, diffidente, esitò, ma quando la vecchina ne morse un pezzo dal lato innocuo, la ragazza si convinse e ne prese un morso. Appena i suoi denti toccarono il lato avvelenato, cadde a terra priva di vita.
In this chapter, the Queen comes up with
Un trucco definitivo.
a final trick, a poisoned apple. In Italian, trucco can mean trick or ploy, as it does here, but it can also mean makeup. A playful expression in Italian is
Trucco e parrucco.
and refers to makeup and hair, especially in contexts like show business or wedding preparations. Once again, we see the use of diminutives to add a touch of sweetness, as in
Vecchina.
a little old woman, which adds the suffix ina to the word vecchia for old woman, and
Casetta.
for little house, which adds the suffix etta to casa, house. So she offers Biancaneve the apple with false kindness, saying,
Assaggia questa mela, dolcezza.
"Taste this apple, sweetheart." The word dolcezza is an Italian term of endearment derived from the adjective dolce, meaning sweet. It's similar to calling someone sweetheart or darling, but it's not commonly used in everyday conversation. When Biancaneve hesitates,
La vecchina ne morse un pezzo.
the old woman bit a piece of it. That ne is a pronoun that means of it or from it. In this case, a piece of it, referring to the apple. Don't confuse ne with the accent, which is a conjunction meaning neither or nor, as in,
Non mangio né carne né pesce.
I eat neither meat nor fish. Once reassured, Biancaneve takes a bite and
Cadde a terra priva di vita.
she fell to the ground lifeless. The expression
Priva di vita.
devoid of life uses the adjective privo, which comes from the Latin privus, meaning lacking or without. This word is often used in figurative contexts as well, such as
Una persona priva di personalità.
a person lacking personality, or
Una teoria priva di fondamento.
a theory without basis. Are you enjoying this lesson? Don't let the learning stop here. Make sure you download your free PDF cheat sheet for this lesson, which you can do by clicking on the link below this video. Now moving on to chapter 8. Take a look.
Capitolo 8. La bara di cristallo. Quando i nani tornarono, non riuscirono a rianimarla. Tristi e addolorati, costruirono una splendida bara di cristallo e la posero nella foresta, vegliandola ogni giorno. Un giorno passò di lì un giovane principe, che rimase incantato dalla bellezza di Biancaneve. Decise di darle un bacio d'addio. Quel bacio ruppe l'incantesimo e il pezzo di mela avvelenata uscì dalla gola di Biancaneve.
After finding Biancaneve,
I nani non riuscirono a rianimarla.
the dwarves were unable to revive her. The verb rianimare means to revive, and in this sentence, it's combined with the direct object pronoun la, meaning her, forming rianimarla. In Italian, it's common to attach direct and indirect object pronouns to the ends of verbs, as we also see in the infinitive,
Darle,
to give her, and the gerund,
vegliandola.
guarding it. Heartbroken, the dwarves build a beautiful crystal coffin,
Vegliandola ogni giorno.
guarding it every day. The verb vegliare is particularly expressive. It means to guard or to care for lovingly. From vegliare comes the noun veglia, which refers to the all-night vigil or wake, especially in religious contexts, such as
La veglia pasquale.
the Easter Vigil. Next, a new character appears.
Un giorno passò di lì un giovane principe.
One day, a young prince passed there. The phrase passò di lì includes the adverb lì, which refers to a specific location far from both the speaker and the listener, just like the English word there. It's often contrasted with là, which generally refers more vaguely to over there. The word lì also appears in various idiomatic expressions, such as
Lì per lì,
right then,
giù di lì,
roughly, and
lì lì per.
on the verge of. The prince, amazed by Biancaneve's beauty, gives her
Un bacio d'addio.
a farewell kiss. While bacio simply means kiss, the word has charming culinary associations as well. For example, bacio is also the name of a delicious chocolate hazelnut gelato flavor. Then there's
Bacio di dama.
literally lady's kiss, a classic Italian pastry made from 2 small cookies joined by chocolate cream. It even appears in the idiomatic expression,
Essere al bacio.
meaning to be perfect or spot on. Moving on to chapter 9. Take a look.
Capitolo 9. Il lieto fine. Biancaneve si risvegliò e il principe le chiese di diventare sua sposa. Biancaneve accettò felice e salutò i 7 nani, ringraziandoli per averle salvato la vita tante volte. La regina cattiva, scoprendo che Biancaneve era viva e che stava per sposare il principe, fu colta da una rabbia così forte che il suo cuore si spezzò e scomparve per sempre. Biancaneve e il principe si sposarono e vissero felici e contenti, mentre i 7 nani continuarono a lavorare nella loro miniera, sapendo che la loro amica era finalmente al sicuro.
This final chapter of the story brings closure with a classic fairy tale ending. The title,
Il lieto fine.
the happy ending, is a fixed Italian expression used for stories that conclude positively. The word lieto is a slightly formal or poetic synonym for felice, happy, often found in celebratory phrases like
Auguri per il lieto evento.
This is a traditional way to congratulate someone on the birth of a child. On the other hand, the word means end, but can also mean goal. For example,
Il fine giustifica i mezzi.
the end justifies the means, or function as an adjective meaning thin, delicate, or refined, as in
Una ragazza fine.
a refined girl. This chapter also offers several examples of reflexive verbs, such as
Biancaneve si risvegliò.
Snow White woke up,
Il suo cuore si spezzò.
her heart broke, and
Si sposarono.
they got married, all showing how these verbs are used to describe actions that directly affect the subject. A particularly rich expression occurs when the queen learns that Biancaneve has survived.
Fu colta da una rabbia così forte.
She was overcome by such a strong rage. Colto on its own typically means cultured or learned, but in the phrase
Essere colto da.
to be overcome or struck by, it conveys a sudden, intense emotional reaction. This usage is common in Italian. For example, you may hear
Colto di sorpresa.
caught by surprise,
Colto in fallo.
caught in the act, or
Colto nel sonno.
caught while sleeping. Biancaneve and the prince marry and
Vissero felici e contenti.
this phrase is the Italian equivalent of the English phrase happily ever after, traditionally used to conclude fairy tales such as this. Meanwhile, the dwarves return to their peaceful routine in
Miniera.
the mine, reassured and comforted
Sapendo che la loro amica era finalmente al sicuro.
knowing that their friend was finally safe. The expression
Essere al sicuro.
to be safe is a useful way in Italian to convey physical or emotional security. Finally, the word miniera, while literally means mine, it also is used in figurative expressions to describe an abundant or valuable source of something, such as
Una miniera di informazioni.
a gold mine of information or
Una miniera d'oro.
a gold mine. And to continue your learning and to help you practice everything that you've learned here today, make sure you download your free PDF cheat sheet. It includes the story transcript, grammar notes, and vocabulary. Just click on the link in the description below this video to download your free copy. If you enjoyed this lesson, then you'll love Intrepid Italian, my series of online self-paced video courses that break down everything you need to know about Italian using my unique 80-20 method. More details in the description below. Now, if you enjoyed this lesson, don't miss my lesson on the only way to become fluent in Italian. This video here is a must watch. Plus, if you struggle to understand fast spoken Italian, make sure you watch this video lesson right here. In the meantime, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and turn on those notifications so you get an alert when I post more video lessons like this one. Until next time, un abbraccio. Ciao!